the Reaction Radar channel. Today, we're going to be discussing the topics about immigration. You know, it's really confusing how the media is taking these things out of context. You know, in no other country could you go over to that country as an illegal and you do something wrong, or you get caught by the government, and then you demand to have rights. Well, first of all, if you're there illegally to begin with, there is no rights because you didn't come there legally. You know, so this is a clip with Governor DeSantis taking some questions from the media. And of course, they're going to try to flag him about the immigration status. So without any further ado, let's get into it.
Where are you from? Okay. Great, thanks. That you're making, that they're deporting American citizens who are showing birth certificates and all that. I don't believe that that's true, but I'll let them respond to that. But you seem to have no sympathy. You seem to have no sympathy for people that have been victimized by illegal aliens. What about people, you have someone driving drunk and kills American citizen? What about people that have been deported previously and let in under Biden, who then commit sexual offenses or commit homicides? And then we have more victims as a result of the federal government's previous inattention and unwillingness to enforce the law. So there are a lot of people that have been harmed by illegal immigration. There have been people that have been harmed by Tren de Aragua gang members who should not be in this country in the first place. So let's just be clear. Who are you fighting for? We're fighting for the citizens of Florida.
You know, that's the interesting thing there too. You have to, you know, look at the bigger picture, okay? If you have someone that's an illegal here in the United States, there is no documentation on who this individual is. There is no legal anything on this individual. So for example, let's say I'm an illegal and I come out today and I say my name is John Doe. Something happens, I commit a crime, whatever the case may be. It might not necessarily be a crime, but I just tell you my name is John Doe. Then tomorrow I'm going to be Jimmy Doe. You know, how do we know who I am? There is no type of any legality documents to state that who I am, and you know, anything else that happens. Like for example, for a United States citizen, for your license, you have to have certain documentations, you know, so that once you take all those things into your Department of Motor Vehicle Administration and you give them those documents, they can verify and say, okay, yes, this John Doe is who he is because A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. But there have also been documented evidence and documentary on it where the Department of Motor Vehicles actually had people that were pushing, you know, receiving payments, and they were actually giving out fake documentation on individuals. So that comes back to the problem with the illegality status, because if you do not come through the right way, then again, how do you know, or how do we know who they are, you know?
We want them to be able to live in a society that upholds the rule of law. We want them to be able to live in a state that is safe. And we have to take action on it. I'll let them address your accusation. But the notion that somehow this is America, therefore we're supposed to have an open border, we're not supposed to enforce immigration laws, we're supposed to just sit on our hands when Biden let in 7 or 8 million people illegally into the country? No, that is not responsible. That is not what our citizens elected us to do. So we're in this fight. I think a lot of these narratives that I hear, to me, just instinctively, I think they're fake narratives because I've seen it happen so many times. But I will let folks at ICE respond to your accusation?
Also, it just seems like the media right now is more so focused on the people that are illegal immigrants rather than the citizens. So it's like all of a sudden the citizens, we become the bad people, and illegal citizens have become the good guys. So forget the fact that we're putting in our work, we're doing everything we're supposed to do, pay taxes, fill out this form, fill out that form, comply with this law, comply with that law, and doing everything as a positive and as a role model citizen supposed to. And then you have an illegal citizen that comes in and doesn't do anything, but also gets the reward and benefits that we had put our time into,
Well, the first thing I'll say is that I think the governor's words really stand on their own. The men and women of ICE are working every single day to protect the communities, working with state and local officials to do our very best to protect the communities after the Biden administration opened our borders, allowed people to come into this country that should have never came into this country in the first place, jeopardizing our families and our communities and putting them in harm's way on a daily basis. The men and women of ICE are going into those communities to protect the men and women in these communities, to be able to do the mission that we've been set on every single day that the president has given us.
149,000 new court cases in 2025 alone. Only 1% are new cases based on alleged criminal.
Conference ended here, but the interesting thing is, again, why is it that the media is only doing more research on this topic about illegal immigration and the benefits to being an illegal immigration? Because they're not reporting on citizens, they're not reporting on crime that's happening, they're not reporting on anything that will benefit us, but more to hinder us. It's like, who are you working for? Who are you representing? It's definitely not the United States citizens, because it's like, the illegal citizens, again, they have more rights than the United States citizens do. There's another clip we're going to be visiting about Kilmer, which you guys are pretty much familiar with. Now, all of a sudden, there's all these other documentations that are coming out, and it's a backpedaling going on. It's like, oh, well, it's about due process. It's about, this and that. Well, first of all, pause. Let's rewind this tape back. Okay? How could you have due process if you didn't even come into the country legally? So again, you're here illegally. You didn't do anything right to come into the country legally, but now, the politicians and the media are like, oh, well, you're entitled to this, you're entitled to that. Again, all due respect, you're not here legally. I understand whatever reason there may be that you're here or what have you, okay? But obtain it legally. Go through the legal channels, The best way I can equate this whole immigration status right now, it could be equated to, let's say you have a person that goes into a store. They steal a product from a store, leaves out the store. Then they come back and return the item and said, oh, hey, I need to return this and get my money back. First of all, you weren't there to purchase the item, right? You stole the item from that store, and then you're going back demanding that the people give you the money. And if they don't, for the return product that you stole, now it becomes a problem, So, we're going to look at this other clip here now. But, drop a line in the comment. Let me know what your take is on this. I would love to hear your comments. So let's go from there. And there it is. Sometimes when the media asks these questions, I'm like, are you guys listening to what you're saying? They're saying that ICE is not being transparent. Where's this information coming from? There's court documents to show that an individual may have a criminal activity or being charged with something. But Where's this information coming from? There's only court documents. There's nothing from ICE. So what is it? Do you want the information from ICE? Do you want the information from the courts? Do you want information from people who know individuals? Because when all of these things are coming into play, you're still saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter. This doesn't have any credibility. There's this, there's that. So, make your mind up. What is it that you want? What do you want to do?
Look, I'll stand by the fact that if you're in this country illegally, you are a criminal. You will be deported. You will have the opportunity to be able to come back into this country through the correct immigration processes. We're working through those every single day, but our number one goal is to keep the American people safe from the criminals that are walking in this country that should have never been let through in the first place.
And that's the end of that discussion. The number one goal of the government should be about and for the people of the United States of America. Okay. Now I know some other folks are out there going to be like, well, the America's made up of different nationality and nations. Yes, it is. Absolutely. But every one of those nationality and different cultures, they obtained their citizenship through legalization. Right? They did it the right way. You didn't just come over and start demanding stuff and becoming a victim, right? You went through the legal channels of obtaining that. So, we just saw that first clip. As usual, I would love to hear your comments and your feedback on that. Please drop me a line. Let me know what your thoughts are, how things are going, and really more importantly, like, what is your thought process on this entire thing right now? It's unbelievable. But here's another one. Let's get into this one.
Well, as more information comes out about Abrego Garcia, Democrats are starting to realize that supporting an MS-13 gang member, it's not a winning message.
We're not vouching for Kilmer Abrego Garcia.
Well, let me stop you right there, Senator. If you're not vouching for him, why did you go to El Salvador? And you made a statement to the El Salvador, in El Salvador, you had a press conference and you said, I will not only be the only senator here, there will be many more behind me. And now all of a sudden you have all these tapes that are coming out, the police tapes that are showing that, he was doing human trafficking. Forget the fact that you had 2 judges that said this gentleman is an MS-13. Forget the fact that you had the police reports that said this gentleman was an MS-13. Forget the fact that his wife was in fear for her life. Forget the fact that the wife's ex-husband showed up and said that he was in fear for his kids that were living with this gentleman because of his gang activities. Forget the fact that this gentleman actually said, I am afraid of the rival gangs. I don't want to go back to El Salvador. Okay, forget all the fact of that. Forget all of that. Okay, now let's see what you got to say, Senator, because when you went over there, you guys went over there on this white high horse saying that, this and that, and he needs due process. And again, I ask, please, I could be wrong. I'm a human. Okay. But how can you give due process to someone that is that's illegal? I don't understand this. I really don't. Maybe you can drop a line in the comment for me, help educate me on that. But again, can you go to a different country? Can you, as a United States citizen, go to a different country, enter there illegally, okay, and demand and want certain rules and policies to be applied to you in that country when you were there illegally to begin with? Okay, but again, let's see what this senator got to say about this. This is just...
We are vouching for his constitutional rights.
Well, they're not the only ones distancing themselves from Abrego Garcia. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is reportedly putting an end to any more trips to El Salvador by members of Congress. But when pressed on the issues, he couldn't quite give a straight answer.
Do you support members going to El Salvador, particularly in terms of
I'm sorry, but why is it every time this gentleman shows up on TV, he always looks like he's asleep and he's like blinking his eye, looking out, trying to stay awake, looking out, What is it that he's doing? He's like a Saturday night, like one of those South Park cartoon characters. I can't take these folks seriously,
the situation involving Kilmer?
Support what members? The members that went? I've had nothing.
First of all, why is he looking to the left and addressing somebody to the right? Like he's staring out as if that was the individual asking the question, but then he just turns right back to the right and like acts like, come on.
Welcome back.
And it's not just gangbangers. Some Democrats now want to secure the border. Democrat Congressman Don Davis is calling for increased security after taking a tour of an ICE facility in Georgia.
For far too long, Congress has kicked the can down the road on meaningful action on immigration reform. Just an issue for border communities. It affects all of us.
Oh, wait a minute. During the election process, did they not say that we do not have a border issue? Well, all of a sudden now it's a different song and dance now. Okay.
And Don Davis is a Democrat elected in a district that voted for Donald Trump. Guy, let me start with you. Do you see some Democrats, whether it was that half answer from Hakeem Jeffries or what you just heard there, do you think they're moving to the center when it comes to the border because they realize it's an issue that Trump still is winning on?
Well, they're moving away from their hero, Mr. Garcia. And the issue that they have to face, and this is a choice that they made, I understand the due process argument, although they seem much more interested in the due process of removal than any due process when everyone was coming in by the millions, including dangerous people who've killed Americans. So that's frustrating, to say the least. But they decided to rally around his case and his cause. There are maybe one or two other examples of people that would be perhaps better politically for them to do that, but they made the choice to call this a Maryland father, a Maryland man, and the more we learn about him, the worse it looks for him and therefore them. And they don't get off the hook for saying, oh, well, those specifics don't matter. Actually, they really do, because the specifics increasingly prove why he shouldn't have ever been here in the first place.
Exactly. You know, and I remember when this case first started, everybody was like, oh, it's so wrong, and he was wrongfully taken away. They took away a United States citizen, and then the propaganda starts, the fear-mongering starts, and then you have folks that are not very, knowledgeable in the situation, and they just hear one little thing and they start running with it, but that's what the media do. They like to start confusion and chaos, because again, now that you're seeing this whole thing that started with Kilmer not being a citizen, he was illegal to begin with. And actually, it's funny that I mentioned about the MVA giving out the wrong information, and they had people in there. But there was also a clip, and again, like I always say, do your own research. But if you now know what you know about Kilmer, right, that he was illegal and part of MS-13 and all of this, there's a video actually going around with him doing the human trafficking, and I believe there was one of my other videos where I had that clip in there, and he told the officer that his license was suspended and that he's waiting on immigration to send him the information. Now, ponder about this for a minute. You're here illegally. How did you obtain a license? And how are you waiting on in the immigration to send you anything for it because you're illegal? You didn't go through the right channels. So these are the questions that, you need to ask. And when I say, at the ending of my shows, when I say, stay informed and engaged, this is what I mean. You have to be engaged. We just can't keep walking around sleeping because people are going to try to push things on you, especially like the media and things of that nature. But you have to be sharp and engaged,
Right. And Alicia, they're putting so much political capital into someone with this checkered past, but what about the angel moms that lost children?
Right.
What about those who lost family members because of illegal immigrants not supposed to be here?
No, they had so many opportunities to pick literally anybody else, and now they're saying it's not about Abrego Garcia, when it very much was about him when they kept referring to him as a Maryland father.
Not only did they keep referring to him as a Maryland father, but there was a young lady, Rachel, I believe, forgive me if I mispronounce her name, but I believe it was Rachel, mother of 5 that, was unalived. And the congressman that actually went to see Kilmer in El Salvador never even spoke to this mother, never even visited her. And this is a United States citizen that actually lost her daughter, and 5 children now no longer have a mother. but we're going to go to El Salvador for someone that is an illegal, that is not a citizen. So that's what I'm saying. You see, you really have to wake up and understand this concept as to what's going on. You know, here you have a citizen that lost her daughter, who was a citizen. You have 5 children that lost their mother who are citizens. But we're going to go spend tax dollars and fly over to El Salvador for someone that is not a citizen, and tell that country that I'm not going to be the only congressman here. We're going to have many more to come. Okay, and now what? Now all of a sudden, all the stuff is coming out, being put out there that he isn't illegal. He was trafficking. You know, he did assault his wife multiple times. There's recording of her. There's court documents of her, which you guys kept saying, oh, well, where's this and where's that? Well, here's the mountain of evidence now. And all of a sudden it's not about the individual, but it's about their rights. Again, how can you have rights if you did not obtain legality status through the legal way?
And as you mentioned, the angel moms, they weren't talking about moms who had lost their children to immigrants who had committed crimes against them. They made it about him until it became inconvenient to be about him. And now it's back to the issue at hand, which makes it difficult for people to believe.
And by the way, just very quickly, to that exact point, Senator Van Hollen went all the way to El Salvador to stand in solidarity with Garcia, never met with the mother of Rachel Morin.
Exactly what I was talking about. So it was Rachel,
who was murdered by an illegal immigrant in his state.
So he has egg on his face, and now they're looking at numbers. Joe, Trump basically sealed the border. I mean, it's like sealed tight right now. This is a losing issue for Democrats, or not really?
Sealed as a 99% drop.
I know.
In border crossings, without 1 inch of the wall being built, by the way. Just as Trump said, we just need a new president. All that said, I just can't get over the fact that Democrats continue to throw a pie in their face by making Kilmer Abrego Garcia their mascot. Like that was the decision there. I mean, this is a guy allegedly MS-13, human trafficker, like we just showed in that video, and a wife beater. And if you asked anybody on the street, forget 80-20 issue, this is a 99-1 issue, as in 99% of voters would say, get him out of here, and 1% would say, keep him here because they're drunk. The bottom line is that Democrats are 4 years late and 12 million illegals short on this one. And by the way, we talked about Rachel Morin. How about any Democrat, one of them, going to Israel and saying, demanding Hamas release Eden Alexander, an American hostage still held since October 7, 2023. They'll go to El Salvador. They won't do that for an American.
Now, you see, there we go. This particular case that he mentioned about just a few minutes ago, I'm not completely sure of it. I'm definitely going to be looking it up. But there you go. You see, you have a United States citizen, right, that's held in another country now for whatever reason, but you don't see any senators or any congressmen going over there, right? That's a citizen. And once you're a citizen, okay, I want you to understand this. If you have a passport, and if you don't, I encourage you to get one, just because, you know, that's a part of our rights, right? But if you actually look at your passport and you read your passport and it tells you, right? It tells you if you're in a country and there's any type of, you know, drama, anything going on, your nearest and closest thing to do is to get to the embassy, right? The United States Embassy, and you will be safe. They will take care of you, right? So here it is, the gentleman's talking about this. That's a United States citizen. Now, again, I don't know the aspects and the whole thing of that case. Definitely, we're going to be looking that one up, right? But you have a citizen that's in a different country, and no Congress, you know, no Congress individual has went over there to look at it. There's no media attention over there. That's a citizen. Why should we care, right? But here we go. Kilmer, an illegal in El Salvador. Let's go over there. Let's get press conference. Let's do this. Let's do that. Oh, yeah, you know. And citizen, what's going on with them? In the air. Like I said, it's funny that this political regime, man, I'm telling you, it's like the citizens, it's not about us. It's nothing to do with citizen anymore. We are no one. We don't have any weight, no value, you know? But this wraps up our show. Thank you for joining me. As usual, if you like this show, please drop a like, subscribe, and definitely, you know, you're going to help me out. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think your thought process is, you know. And as usual, stay informed and engage. Until the next show, have a good one.